Margot Robbie adjusted her baseball cap and oversized sunglasses as she walked down Rodeo Drive with her husband, Tom Ackerley. It was one of those rare afternoons when they could escape the usual entourage, no publicists, no security detail, just the two of them in comfortable jeans and t-shirts. "I still think we should have brought Marcus," Tom said, referring to their usual bodyguard. "Come on, it's nice to feel normal for once," Margot replied, squeezing his hand. "Besides, I want to surprise you properly for our anniversary." They stopped in front of Montague and Sterling, the most exclusive watch boutique in Beverly Hills. The storefront gleamed with polished brass and crystal-clear windows displaying timepieces worth more than most people's homes. "Margot, this is too much." "Shoo," she said, pulling him toward the door. "You've been eyeing that Patek Philippe for months. Don't think I haven't noticed." The automatic doors didn't open. Through the glass, they could see a security guard approaching from inside. He was a tall, stern-looking man in his 50s with a perfectly pressed uniform and an expression that suggested he'd already made up his mind about them. The guard opened the door manually but blocked the entrance with his body. "I'm sorry, but the store is by appointment only." Margot glanced at Tom, then back at the guard. "Oh, I didn't realize. We can make an appointment." "I'm afraid we're fully booked for the next several weeks," the guard interrupted, his eyes scanning their casual attire with obvious disdain. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable shopping elsewhere. There's a mall about 10 blocks north." Tom's jaw tightened. "Excuse me?" "Sir, I'm simply suggesting that our merchandise here is specialized. Our clients typically arrive with proper arrangements." "Proper arrangements?" Margot asked, her Australian accent becoming more pronounced as her irritation grew. The guard's expression didn't change. "Security details, appointments, proper attire. I'm sure you understand." A younger salesman appeared behind the guard, his eyes widening slightly as he took in the scene. "Is everything all right, Richard?" "Just explaining our policies to these folks," Richard replied without turning around. The salesman peered around Richard's shoulder, his face showing a flicker of recognition before he composed himself. "Richard, perhaps we could." "No exceptions, James," Richard cut him off. "Company policy." Margot felt Tom's hand tense in hers. She knew that look, he was about to say something they'd both regret. She stepped forward, removing her sunglasses. "Look, I understand you have policies, but we're actually here to make a significant purchase. I want to buy my husband a watch for our anniversary." Richard's expression remained unmoved. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You're causing a disturbance." "A disturbance?" Tom's voice was incredulous. "We're standing here talking to you." "Sir, please don't make this difficult." James, the younger salesman, was now frantically whispering something to another colleague who had appeared from the back of the store. Both of them kept glancing at Margot with growing alarm. "What if I want to buy my dream man a gift?" Margot asked, her voice honey-sweet but with an edge that anyone who'd seen her in The Wolf of Wall Street would recognize. Richard scoffed. "Then I suggest you look for something at Target. They have a lovely selection of Timex watches that might be more in your price range." The words hung in the air like a slap. James audibly gasped, and the other salesman pulled out his phone, his fingers flying across the screen. "Target," Margot repeated slowly. "Right. Thank you for the suggestion." "Richard," James said urgently, "I really think." "That's enough, James. These people need to leave. Now." Tom stepped forward, but Margot put a hand on his chest. "It's fine, darling. The gentleman has made himself perfectly clear." She put her sunglasses back on and turned to leave, then paused. "You know, I've worn Richard Mille watches worth $500,000 to red carpet events. I've been gifted Cartier pieces by luxury brands. But you're right, Target probably is more my speed. At least they don't judge their customers by their clothes. As they walked away, they could hear frantic whispering from inside the store. James's voice carried through the glass. That was Margot Robbie, the actress. "Richard, what have you done?" Tom put his arm around his wife as they headed down the sidewalk. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," Margot said, though her cheeks were flushed. "Just disappointed. You'd think in 2024, people would know better. Should we go back? Make them?" "No," she said firmly. "But I might mention this to my Instagram followers. All 50 million of them." Tom chuckled despite the situation. "That's my girl." They had barely made it to their car when Margot's phone started buzzing. Her publicist's name flashed on the screen. "That was fast," Tom muttered. Margot answered. "Hi, Sarah." "Margot, what just happened at Montague and Sterling?" "I've got 3 reporters calling me, and there's already a video going viral on TikTok." "Video?" Margot frowned. "We just left 2 minutes ago. Someone filmed the whole thing from across the street. The caption says, 'Watch store refuses service to couple in casual clothes,' turns out to be Margot Robbie. It's already got 100,000 views." Tom pulled out his own phone and found the video. Sure enough, someone had captured the entire interaction, including Richard's dismissive gestures and the moment Margot removed her sunglasses. "The internet is having a field day," Sarah continued. "The hashtag #TargetWatch is trending, and people are review bombing the store. Someone's already made a meme of you shopping for watches at Target." Margot sighed. "I didn't want this to become a thing. Too late for that. The store's official Instagram is being flooded with comments. Do you want to make a statement?" "No, Margot paused as her phone buzzed with another call. "Sarah, I'll call you back. The store is calling me." She switched calls. "Hello? Ms. Robbie? This is Jonathan Montague, owner of Montague and Sterling. I cannot express how mortified I am about what just occurred at our establishment. Mr. Montague. Please, I've just reviewed the security footage and spoken with my staff. Richard has been with us for 15 years, but his behavior today was inexcusable. He's been suspended pending a full investigation. I don't want anyone to lose their job over this," Margot said, even as Tom shook his head. "Ms. Robbie, discrimination has no place in our business. I pride myself on creating an inclusive environment for all our clients, regardless of their attire or how they choose to shop. Richard's actions were a complete violation of our values. I appreciate that, but I would be honored if you and Mr. Ackerley would return to our store as my personal guests. I'll be there myself to ensure you receive the service you deserve. And please, bring your entire team if you wish, or come just as you are. You're welcome any time." Margot looked at Tom, who shrugged. "Mr. Montague, that's kind of you, but I think we'll shop elsewhere for my husband's gift." There was a pause. "I understand completely. And Ms. Robbie? For what it's worth, I'm implementing mandatory sensitivity training for all our staff starting tomorrow. This will never happen again." After she hung up, Margot and Tom sat in their car for a moment. The phone kept buzzing with texts and calls. "You know what?" Margot said finally. "Let's actually go to Target." Tom laughed. "Seriously? Why not? They've got watches, and their customer service has always been lovely." An hour later, Margot posted a photo on Instagram of herself and Tom at Target, holding up a display of Timex watches, both of them grinning. The caption read, "Found the perfect anniversary gift. Thank you at Target for the wonderful service and for treating all customers with respect. #TargetWatch #LoveNotLabels." The post exploded. Within hours, it had millions of likes and thousands of comments. Target's stock price jumped 3 points. Timex offered to create a limited edition Margot watch with proceeds going to anti-discrimination charities. But not everyone was supportive. By evening, Margot was fielding calls from her agent, her lawyer, and several luxury brands she had partnerships with. Margot, darling, her agent, Patricia, said in that careful tone she used when she thought her client was making a mistake. Some of the brands are concerned. Cartier called. They're worried about the Target post. They think it dilutes your luxury image. My luxury image? Margot laughed. Patricia, I'm Australian. We don't do pretentious. I know, sweetheart, but you have contracts. Endorsement deals. Some of them have exclusivity clauses about what products you can publicly support. Margot paced her living room, frustration building. So they're fine with me being discriminated against as long as I don't shop at Target? That's not what they're saying. That's exactly what they're saying. Margot stopped pacing. You know what? Set up a conference call. All of them. Let's have this conversation. 2 hours later, Margot sat at her dining room table, her laptop open to a video call with representatives from 5 major luxury brands. Tom sat beside her, out of camera view but holding her hand under the table. We appreciate your situation, Margot, said a polished executive from a French fashion house. But you must understand, when you publicly endorse mass-market brands, it affects your positioning as a luxury ambassador. I wasn't endorsing them, Margot said evenly. I was thanking them for treating me like a human being. The optics, another executive began. The optics, Margot interrupted, are that one of your competitors discriminated against me and my husband because we weren't dressed appropriately. And instead of standing with me, you're worried about me shopping at Target? An uncomfortable silence filled the call. Perhaps we could arrange for you to make a statement supporting luxury retail in general, suggested someone from an Italian jewelry brand. We could even orchestrate a shopping trip to one of our boutiques. With photographers? Margot asked. And security? And me in designer clothes playing dress up to prove I belong? More silence. Here's what's going to happen, Margot said, her voice steady but firm. I'm going to continue being myself. I'm going to shop where I'm treated with respect. And I'm going to call out discrimination when I see it. If that's incompatible with your brand values, then maybe we need to reconsider our partnerships. After the call ended, Tom whistled low. That was brave. That was stupid, Margot corrected, dropping her head into her hands. I probably just cost us millions in endorsement deals. Hey, Tom said, pulling her into his arms. You stood up for what's right. That's worth more than any contract. The next morning, Margot woke to find #TeamMargot trending worldwide. Someone had leaked audio from the conference call. She suspected it was a junior employee at one of the brands who disagreed with their executive's stance. The public response was overwhelming. Margot Robbie chooses principles over paychecks, read one headline. Luxury brands pressure actress to stay silent on discrimination, read another. Her phone rang. It was Patricia again. Before you say anything, her agent began, 3 of the brands have already called back. They want to apologize and renegotiate. And I've got Tommy Hilfiger, Ralph Lauren, and Michael Kors all wanting to meet with you about new partnerships. Apparently, authentic is the new luxury. Margot laughed despite herself. The irony is not lost on me. That afternoon, she received an unexpected visitor. James, the young salesman from Montague and Sterling, stood at her door looking nervous but determined. Ms. Robbie, I'm so sorry to bother you at home. I got your address from a mutual friend, Emma Stone. She said you wouldn't mind. James? Margot was surprised. Come in. Is everything okay? They sat in her living room, and James told his story. I've been working there for 3 years. I've seen Richard turn away dozens of people, young entrepreneurs, athletes in streetwear, anyone who didn't fit his idea of appropriate. I've reported it to management multiple times, but nothing ever happened. Why are you telling me this? Margot asked gently. Because what you did, standing up to them, using your platform, it's given me courage. I quit this morning. And I'm not the only one. 4 other employees left with me. We're starting our own consulting firm to help luxury retailers create inclusive environments. That's amazing, Margot said, genuinely impressed. We're calling it Open Doors, James continued. And we were hoping, would you consider being our first advisory board member? Before Margot could answer, her doorbell rang again. This time it was a delivery, a massive bouquet of flowers with a card from the CEO of Target. Thank you for reminding us why we do what we do. P.S. Check your email. Margot opened her laptop to find a proposal from Target's corporate team. They wanted to partner with her on a new initiative, luxury pop-ups in Target stores featuring high-end brands committed to inclusive retail practices. This is incredible, Tom said, reading over her shoulder. But the biggest surprise came that evening. Margot was cooking dinner when her phone buzzed with a FaceTime call from an unknown number. She almost declined it, but something made her answer. On the screen was an elderly woman with kind eyes and silver hair pulled back in an elegant bun. Ms. Robbie? I'm Eleanor Montague. Jonathan's mother. The co-founder of Montague and Sterling. Margot nearly dropped her phone. Mrs. Montague, Please, call me Eleanor. I wanted to apologize personally for what happened in our store. When my late husband and I started the business 50 years ago, it was because we believed everyone deserved to own something beautiful. We came from nothing ourselves, immigrants with big dreams and empty pockets. The woman's eyes filled with tears. To see what it's become, turning people away based on their appearance, it breaks my heart. Robert would be devastated. I appreciate your call, Margot said softly. But it's not me who needs the apology. It's everyone who's been turned away over the years. You're absolutely right, Eleanor agreed. Which is why I'm coming out of retirement. I've told Jonathan that if he wants to keep the family name on that store, things are going to change. Starting with Richard and anyone else who thinks they can judge our customers' worth by their clothes. That's wonderful, but... I watched your interview from last year, Eleanor interrupted, where you talked about growing up in Gold Coast, working multiple jobs to support your acting dreams. You reminded me of myself at that age. The hunger, the determination, the refusal to let anyone tell you that you don't belong. Margot felt unexpectedly emotional. Thank you. No, thank you. You've reminded an old woman why she started her business in the first place. Would you consider having tea with me next week? I'd love to hear your ideas about how we can do better. After the call ended, Margot stood in her kitchen, overwhelmed by the day's events. Tom wrapped his arms around her from behind. You okay? I think so, she said. It's just. I walked into a store to buy you a watch, and somehow it's turned into all this. That's because you didn't just walk away, Tom said. You stood up. You used your voice. And look what's happening, real change. That night, Margot couldn't sleep. She scrolled through social media, reading stories from people who'd experienced similar discrimination. A young tech entrepreneur turned away from a car dealership because of his hoodie. A nurse denied service at a high-end restaurant because her scrubs didn't meet the dress code. A teenager saved for months to buy his mom a designer purse, only to be followed around the store by security. She started responding to some of them, sharing their stories, amplifying their voices. By morning, #OpenDoors was trending, and James's new company had received dozens of inquiries from retailers wanting to change their practices. The next morning, Margot woke to find her publicist had sent her a link to a news article. Montague and Sterling announces closure for comprehensive restructuring following discrimination scandal. The article detailed how the luxury retailer would be closed for 2 weeks to implement new policies and training. It quoted Jonathan Montague as saying, "Recent events have shown us that we need to do better. When we reopen, we'll be a store that truly welcomes everyone." But the real surprise came a week later. Margot was having coffee with her friend Reese Witherspoon when her phone rang. It was Tom. "You need to see this," he said, barely containing his laughter. He sent her a photo from Rodeo Drive. Where Montague and Sterling used to be, there was now a huge banner, "Coming soon, Target Luxe, designer timepieces for everyone." Reese peered over her shoulder. "No way. Did Target actually?" "Apparently they bought out Montague and Sterling's lease," Tom explained. "They're opening a luxury watch boutique with the tagline, 'Style has no dress code.'" Margot couldn't help but laugh. "Well, I guess Richard was right about one thing. We should have shopped at Target all along." The story might have ended there, but it didn't. 6 months later, at the Academy Awards, Margot walked the red carpet wearing a stunning Versace gown, and a limited edition Timex Margot watch on her wrist. When asked about her choice of timepiece, she smiled and said, "It's a reminder that respect should be universal, regardless of what you're wearing or how much you can spend." The moment went viral, of course. But the real victory came when James, the young salesman who had tried to help that day, reached out to thank her. He'd left Montague and Sterling and started his own inclusive luxury consulting firm, helping high-end retailers create welcoming environments for all customers. "You changed my perspective on what luxury service should really mean," he wrote. "It's not about judging who belongs, it's about making everyone feel they do." And Richard? He was spotted 6 months later working as a security guard at a mall in the Valley. When a young couple in ripped jeans and flip-flops walked past his post toward the jewelry store, he stepped aside and held the door open for them. "Welcome," he said. "I hope you find exactly what you're looking for." Sometimes, Margot reflected, the best lessons come from the worst moments. And sometimes, a simple trip to buy a watch can change an entire industry. As for the Patek Philippe Tom had been eyeing, he eventually got it, as a gift from Patek Philippe themselves, along with a note, "For the man who stood by his wife with grace and dignity. With our compliments and our apologies." But if you asked Tom, he'd tell you his favorite timepiece was still the Timex from Target. "It keeps perfect time," he'd say with a grin, "and it comes with the best story." And in Hollywood, as Margot well knew, the story was always the most valuable thing of all. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned a lesson. I would be grateful for your likes. Also don't forget to subscribe and comment on the video. See you soon.